This episode is brought to you by Flex Dealer.
All right, we're doing something a little bit different on this episode of the Dealer Playbook. I'm sitting down with my pal Glenn Lundy. We're going to talk about opportunity and how you can take advantage of it because it's available to you. You're going to hear some construction because we are in the dealership recording the very first podcast episode at our new podcast booth. So if you hear it in the background, now you know what's going on. Let's dig into this episode. Hey gang, welcome to this episode of the Dealer Playbook Podcast. We are sitting down inside of 800 Elite Auto, the new dealership, with my man Glenn Lundy. You can tell it's the end of the day. We both had meetings all day.
All day, bro.
I thought it'd be cool to do a dealership, do a podcast right from the dealership.
Yeah, we don't want to do a dealership from a podcast, but
No.
we could probably do a podcast from a dealership.
And we're having a bunch of fun. We always have fun when we're together. So
No doubt.
Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate you having me, and super excited to be back on the Dealer Playbook. Let's go.
We're in an empty shell of a dealership right now.
Yeah.
Paint is up. Podcast studio is set up. You did one of your vlogs on the 800% Elite Auto YouTube channel talking about how of all the things that we could have installed in the dealership first, it was a podcast studio. Tell me why that's important to you.
So it's really important, you know, as we build out this dealership, we're really wanting to do things different. And the way that I'm looking at it is we are let me reword this. The best way to put our people in a position to be successful is we need attention, right? And so the way I look at it is we are a leadership development academy first.
Right.
We are a media company second.
Mm-hmm.
And we happen to sell cars last, right? And so it's the last priority. So most dealerships around America anyway, I don't know how it is in capital C, but most dealerships in America, when you walk into a showroom, what do you see?
Cars.
You see cars.
Tables.
Yeah. Why do you see cars?
Because that's what they're there to sell. That's the whole reason they're open.
That's the whole reason they're open. And that's
Right.
exactly right. So our whole reason for being open is we want to develop leaders, we want to make an impact in the community, we want to help train our clients in a unique way where they can sell more cars. We really want to serve the industry, and like I said, the cars are just kind of a product that we use to be able to deliver that bigger mission. So I didn't want to bring cars in here first. I don't want a bunch of pictures on the walls of cars. I wanted the podcast studio to go in first, because that is really our intention. And B, I want my team to know, like, we are going to be doing video. We are going to be creating content. Like,
Right.
This is priority number one, that we make a lot of noise, get a lot of attention in order to make the impact that we want to make. So we're kind of making a statement here in this place, if you know what I mean.
I actually heard it yesterday from one of our team members that's going to be working in the store, Melissa. And it was in passing. We're at the boardroom at the 800 Elite Auto Club offices.
Yeah.
And
HQ. Yeah.
And she goes, I've just learned my lesson. And you go, what's that? She's like, if you're around, I need to be fully done up, makeup, because I know I'm going to be on video.
Facts.
Yeah.
Like always. Like we're going to have a 24-hour live stream in this place to where all of our team members will be on camera 24/7, and potential customers, fans, people that, you know, find value in everything that we're doing, our clients, they'll be able to tune in 24/7, no walls, no screens, no curtains, no nonsense. You want to talk about transparency? 24-hour live stream, bro.
Like 8 weeks ago, you didn't know this was going to happen.
Right.
If you had to think about the maybe top 2 or 3 things you've had to learn in your life that opened you up to seeing opportunities when they present themselves, what are they, right? Because I feel like most people go through their life not recognizing opportunities, then looking at someone who's doing stuff, who's a mover, a shaker, and they're like, well, what's the difference between that guy and what I'm doing? How come these types of things never land in my lap?
Yeah.
What are those 1 to 2, maybe 2 or 3 habits that you've developed that have positioned you to see opportunities and pounce on them because you're ready?
positioned me to see opportunities and pounce on them when I'm ready. So one would be my morning routine. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but every single morning I go through my morning routine, right? No snooze, no phone first thing in the morning, gratitude and goals, take care of the physical, and send out an encouraging message. That pattern allows me time every single day to look at where I am presently in life, to reflect on where I was before, and to dream about where I could potentially go. And when you sit still, which a lot of us don't do enough,
Right.
when you sit still, you can, I call them downloads, God, those types of things, have an opportunity to plant seeds of confidence, seeds of faith, seeds of action, right? And so I think that's the first thing, is I've been doing that every day for, I don't know, years and years and years and years and years, over a decade.
Well over
a decade. So I've been doing that well over a decade now. And so I think that's step one, is you really have to create space. The world's a busy place, man. And a lot of times we just get super busy. So create space to allow these things to happen in your life. That's one. Two is, I am a huge advocate of urgency. Now, not necessarily speed. Speed and urgency are different things.
Right.
Right? So to act with speed can sometimes create lots of opportunities for mistakes.
Right.
There's some things you need to, like, slow down,
Yep.
methodic, have a plan, have a strategy, so on and so forth. But to always act with urgency is like a core value of mine. So in the moment that I receive a download, hear God's call, am compelled or led in whatever direction, I always move with urgency, because there's a book I read called Big Magic. My friend Heather Parody, who you know very well, she introduced me to this book, Big Magic. And in that book, Elizabeth Gilbert talks about how ideas are alive in this weird realm, and they're looking for a host to bring them to existence.
Yeah.
And they'll go from host to host to host to host to host until someone will actually dig in and bring them to life. Like, they desperately want to be alive. And this is why, I'm sure you've had this happen. I know I've had this happen, where I was in Flagstaff, Arizona. It's freezing cold. I'm a kid, and I'm watching TV, and I'm laying on the couch with a blanket. And in Flagstaff, I mean, it gets cold. And back then, the TV had to see the remote, right?
Right.
So I'm cold under the blanket like this, and I'm reaching out from the blanket, and I'm changing the channel, and my arm's cold. And so I'm like digging back into the blanket quickly, and I thought, man, it would be amazing if I had a blanket with sleeves. Wouldn't that be incredible? I did nothing with the idea. 2 years later, out comes the Snuggie. And this guy makes millions and millions of dollars creating a blanket with sleeves, right? The idea landed on me. I didn't act with urgency. The idea made its way around to someone else who was willing to bring it to life. And I think we've all experienced that, right? We all have, I had that idea years ago. I wish, I should have done that.
Right.
Right? And so go for it.
So we're talking about there's so many firsts. This is the first time we're recording from the dealership.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've had a guest take a phone call from their wife in the middle of it.
Hey, and I'll tell you about that here in a minute.
But it's also the first time, in addition to that you were just presented with an opportunity and made a decision on it immediately.
Yeah.
While we're talking about how to recognize and position ourselves to take opportunities.
Correct.
I'm not going to ask you the details of the opportunity, but
Sure.
But you've talked to us about a couple of things that have allowed you, have empowered you to become the host for opportunities, to assess them and leverage them. And I think that's something that's incredibly valuable for anybody that's listening or watching, because we're all getting ideas. The difference is being able to assess them and put them into implementation. How are you able to, when just presented with an opportunity, assess it and say no to it? Where I think, especially on the tail end of you talking about most people going through life being like, oh man, I should have.
Sure.
How are you able to assess, no, that's something I'm not even going to worry about, I should have in the future?
Well, two things. One, I answered the phone because my wife, one day, this was a few years ago, my wife said to me, honey, you say I'm the number one priority in your life. And I was like, yeah, you are. You're number one. And she goes, okay, then how come when you're on the phone with me and someone else calls, you get off the phone with me, but if you're on the phone with someone else and I call, you don't get off the phone? And
she's
I thought,
a closer.
She's got a valid point, bro.
Right.
Sometimes we take the people closest to us for granted.
For
And so when she, the one time she called right there, I try to answer any time she calls, but the one time she called, it could have been one of the kids,
Sure.
Second time she calls, we got a thing. So how do we make decisions quickly? Well, you got to know the source. If the source is God, then yeah, like we'll entertain that. Sometimes when the source is my beautiful and amazing and incredible wife, who is always looking at houses and is always she's always looking at houses. She's always looking at things. So the call just now, she said, hey, are you willing to drive 47 minutes to get to the office? Right now, my drive to the office is 15 minutes. Are you willing to drive 47 minutes to get to the office? I knew where she was headed, right? Where she was headed is, hey, I'm looking at a property right now, and it's pretty cool, and it's 47 minutes from the office. So the answer is no, I'm not interested in driving 47 minutes from the office because I already know that she's just playing around with a house that has 48 acres.
Right.
But we have a beautiful home.
You do.
On 10 acres with a pond.
Pond that's
15
stocked.
minutes from the house, 15 minutes from the dealership.
Yeah.
15 minutes from all the kids' activities that they love to do. I believe it will be our forever home, at least until all the kids are out of the house, and then we might downsize because it's 8,500 square feet. It's a big house.
Yeah.
So I've already kind of set that, like, this is where we're going to raise our kids, and she knows that. We've had those conversations. But with other decisions outside of this particular one, there's some core values that I believe in. There's paths that I believe that we are on. And so when an opportunity is presented, I can run it through those things pretty quickly. For example, somebody says, hey, do you want to go do X, Y, Z? I'll say, well, does it bring people together? Does it allow me to equip them with the tools they need to succeed? And does it allow me to inspire them to be great? So if it'll do all three of those things, bring people together, equip them with the tools they need to succeed, and inspire them to be great, I'll entertain that.
Interesting. Yep.
Right. But if it doesn't bring people together, like maybe it equips people with a tool and can inspire them to be great, but it's all solo, right? Like drop shipping opportunity.
Yes,
right. Where it could inspire an individual.
Yep.
And it could equip them with a tool for success, but it's not going to bring them together in community.
Yeah.
Then it's not for me. Like I'm built to bring people together, equip them with tools they need to succeed, and inspire them to be great. So I just have these filters of core values and purpose that I can run something through the filter, and if it doesn't ring all the bells, it's off the table.
Right.
Hey, does your marketing agency suck? Listen, before we hop back into this episode, I know you know me as the host of the Dealer Playbook, but did you also know that I'm the CEO of Flex Dealer, an agency that's helping dealers capture better quality leads from local SEO and hyper-targeted ads that convert? So if you want to sell more cars and finally have a partner that's in it with you that doesn't suck, visit flexdealer.com. Let's hop back into this episode.
And I mean, without getting into all of the details of how the dealership is coming together, because you can check that out on the YouTube channel that we will link to, where you're documenting every day.
That's you.
Which
He's
is
talking about you guys.
What we're doing right here. I can see now why it was a quick decision for you, because it touches all three of those things.
Correct.
Right? You're driving down the street, you see an empty lot. That was a dealership. That's not a dealership anymore.
Yep.
You go, wait a minute. you saw the opportunity to unify people, to inspire them, and what was the third one again?
Equip them with the tools they need to
Equip
succeed.
them with the tools they need to succeed, and that's exactly what's happening here. So your big, bold vision is that you're not going to work in this store.
Correct.
You're hiring a team that is going to do the day-to-day operating of this dealership.
Yeah.
Why is that important to you?
For growth and expansion to fully live out the vision that I have in my heart of the life I want to leave, if that makes sense, right? The legacy I want to leave. If I'm working in this store, it does a couple of things. One, other people on the outside can say, well, that dealership's only successful because Glenn's doing it.
Right.
And that doesn't help the consulting side of what we do, and it also doesn't tell the true story, which is that my people are incredible.
Yeah.
A lot of people attribute direct success to my charismatic personality, so on and so forth, right? So we don't want it to do that. Also, if I'm working in this store, then I become an integral part of its growth, which means when I open store in Dallas, now I have to be an integral part of its growth. And
Right.
if I want to open a store in Florida, now I have to be an integral part of its growth.
Yeah.
And there's only one of me, and it's, we're not as spread apart as Canada is, but we're pretty spread apart around here. And so the bigger vision, every bit of me wants to just jump in and do all the things. But the bigger vision says, hey, Glenn, you're limiting your potential and you're reducing the impact that you can make with your life if you get too deep in the weeds on this. Stay over here, guide and lead, which is what I do best, bring people together, equip them with tools they need to succeed, and inspire them to be great. Let's do that from a distance, and then once you learn that skill, we can now
It's scalable.
duplicate, and it's scalable.
I remember a seminar I did years ago. One of the first things they taught for young entrepreneurs was that as part of your business plan, you have to have an exit strategy. And some people would take that as, what's your growth path to acquisition? Get out of it. That's ring the bell, all those sorts of things. But what they were really talking about is how to build a business that is not dependent upon you to grow and scale. That's kind of my take. Is that, am I understanding that right? Like this is, I'm starting, the dealership is starting with your exit strategy at the forefront, not being you as the pivot point for everything.
Yeah, totally. And it's also, it's like fun and challenging for me at the same time, right? So my friend Danelle, she was like, Glenn, you've gone from employee to employer, which means you have to change how you function, right? The way I've always functioned as an employee is I took mental ownership, but I got it done.
Yep.
Give me the ball. I'm
Right.
going to take it across the finish line.
Right.
I'm going to get it done, or
Right.
across into the end zone, right? And so now I have to learn a new skill, which is how do we duplicate 800% success without me having to hold the ball? I look at professional sports all the time, and how do you go from quarterback, right, who's throwing all the passes, to head coach, who's guiding all of that, to GM, right, to owner? Like there's all these levels, right? When you go watch an NFL football game, you'll see the owner. If it's a home game, you'll usually see him on the field before the game and maybe after. But then he goes up in his box and sits and watches.
Yeah. He's not playing the game.
He ain't playing the game.
Right.
I mean, he's allowing other people to spread their wings and fly by doing so. And so that's important to me to learn this new season that I'm in my life, because for a very long time I attached my identity to my individual production. Now my identity is starting to be attached to the ability to grow and develop others and still reach massive levels of success. Like I'm not going to go, well, if I was doing it, we'd sell 800, but since they're doing it, I'm okay with 6. Like,
Yeah.
no, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
I recently watched a documentary about Lionel Messi on Apple TV Plus.
Okay.
If you have Apple TV Plus, you should check out this docuseries. We know that David Beckham, who is a phenomenal player, broke all sorts of records, had an amazing career as a footballer or a soccer player, now owns part of Inter Miami. He's a partner of this soccer club in Miami. They recruit Messi, so they recruit somebody who's also great. But I'm thinking about it in the context of what you've just said, because you've played the game.
Yeah.
You excelled at the game. You grew others in the game. Now you've got your own club and you're building a roster of people. Right. I mean, it's got to be difficult for Beckham to not play the game
for sure
and rely on the team.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of a similar analogy. That's how I'm internalizing it.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
Like you can't keep stepping in to play the game for the people, or else they will never excel at playing the game.
Yeah, correct, man. And how fair is that?
Right.
Like, that's not cool.
No.
I
Yeah,
don't
you're
think
not
that's
doing
cool.
anything to help them.
Yeah, I don't want. I feel like the whole system is pretty jacked up in today's day and age. Back when we had the Industrial Revolution in the early 1920s, late 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah.
Like, the Industrial Revolution came around, and it kind of changed what work looked like, right? So prior to the Industrial Revolution, there was exchanges of values. People exchanged things of values. There was barter systems. Yeah, there was some money, and there was some capitalism. Those things.
You dig me a
exist.
ditch, and I'll give you some milk.
Yeah, I mean, those things kind of, they existed, but it wasn't
Right.
until the Industrial Revolution where we created this thing where it's like, I will be at the top,
Yeah.
and everyone will be beneath me.
Right.
The rules will be different for me than they are for you, and I will make all of the money, and you will get the scraps. That was kind of an Industrial Revolution type thing, right? And to be honest, it worked for, a good period of time. Like, people could work for a big organization and make decent money and take care of their families and have a savings and buy a house, and one parent could stay home and the other one could go to work if they wanted. And it was good until probably like the 60s, the 70s, and then things started to shift a little bit going into the 80s, and then came this internet thing. And the internet thing really transformed the level of wealth that some of these high levels make, and the cost of living
Sure.
went through the roof. So now we're at a place where you got a lot of people that go into those environments, with the promise of retirement or whatever that promise is, and a home and a white picket fence. And what they end up is both parents or both people in the relationship grinding their
Tails off.
BALLZ, I think that's your favorite
Balls.
word. Grinding their balls off for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
To end up, depending on what kind of industry they're in, maybe a little broken down physically, and they're still living on a budget with very little savings, financial freedom.
Yeah. Now they're doing it to pay off a credit card bill because they overextended.
Yeah, exactly. So it's changed quite a bit, I think. But business itself hasn't changed. And so I think it is important that we grow people, give them the tools they need to be successful, and then allow them to reach and achieve whatever goal it is that they're trying to reach and achieve. And that means some people are going to come through here and go, right? They're going to come through here and learn all the things they need to learn, and then they're going to go open a business. They're going to go open a dealership. They're going to go do whatever it is they do. That's a win.
Yeah.
That's a win. So many people are like, I want to lock them in. I'm going to give them a 401k and a pension and tenure, and you're going to get 1 week of vacation after 3 years, and then another week after 5 years, or another week after 7 years, because I just need you to stay here and grind in the frickin' ground for me forever.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I just don't see the world like that anymore. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. I think that we should educate people, develop people, grow people. If they perform at a super high level, you know they're in the right spot, so feed them as much as you can feed them so that they can go out and do what they need to do.
Yeah.
If they're not performing at a very good level, they're probably in the wrong spot. Let them go somewhere else where they can really grow and thrive. Like, I just want, when I'm done, man, I want a bunch of people to be, I want my kids in a line, my wife and my kids in a line. Here's my coffin, and there's thousands of people in a line, and all of them are walking by and looking at my kids and going, your dad really made a massive impact in my life.
Yeah.
Like, that's the end. And
That kind of gives a,
you
that gives a new meaning to generational wealth.
Yeah.
Because it's not now just in the context of monetary means for your family, your children, your grandchildren. It is actually the impact reach of thousands of other families who have been impacted in a positive way.
and their children and their children's children.
Right.
It's multi-generational.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's a different way of looking at it.
Like even the schedule piece, right? So people always ask me, because nobody has a schedule,
At the dealership.
or my consulting company.
No schedule.
Nobody
No
has a
9 to
schedule.
5. No, it's like
Nobody has a schedule.
show up.
Nobody has a
So
schedule.
somebody, because I understand it, because I worked alongside you for a long time, but
Yeah.
for those that are listening, and that's kind of a foreign
What's that?
concept.
Yeah. No, you're good, man. Go right ahead, man. We don't want to slow you down.
See, this is what happens. We're recording live. We've got a contractor over here who's building walls,
Yeah.
and we can't get in his way. We're doing this.
We can't slow them down.
Hey, the DPV gang's been with me for well over a decade.
That's
now. Right. So
Beautiful.
they know. But this idea of no schedule, explain that briefly, what you mean by that, because I think there are some people going, wait a minute, what does that actually mean? How do you monitor? I think their gut instinct is, but how do you monitor the output and the performance of people if you don't have a schedule?
Totally. So, and because I've been able to talk about it so many times now, I have the greatest response. It's awesome. So the more successful the person is, especially if they're a business owner or whatever, and they go, how do you run with no schedule? I just look at them and I go, what's your schedule? So you're a business owner, Michael.
Yeah.
What's your schedule at work?
It's always on.
But what's your schedule?
I don't have one.
You don't have a schedule. Do you still work?
Yeah.
Do you still show up?
Yeah.
You
yeah.
probably work more than most people.
You do what you got to do.
You do what you got to do. So why is it that you have this magnificent ability to function without a schedule, but nobody else can? Right? It's that simple. So
Do you think that was an attempt, though, in this employee culture to be like, and here's how we're going to make them feel like they have life balance?
No. It was, if I can function
Yeah.
without a schedule,
Yeah.
why can't they?
Mm.
Like, simple as that. Like, why
Right.
do I have to tell you?
What's so different
I don't
about
even
me?
want to, bro.
Right.
Like, I don't want to tell you, you have to be at work at 8:30 a.m. You have to punch in on the clock, and then you have to clock out for lunch at noon, and then be back at 12:30, and then I have to have people that monitor. You're a freaking
You just
adult,
created
dude.
another job for yourself.
Oh my gosh, I don't want that. Like, you're an adult. I don't want to babysit you. I don't want to tell you when to be to work. I don't want to tell you when to go home. I don't want to tell you any of that. Here's what I want to do. I want to bring people together, equip them with the tools they need to succeed, and inspire them to be great. And so we have 2 policies because, again, this whole industrial revolution created this thing. And here we are 100 years later where there's like, here's our employee handbook. It's 946 pages.
Make
of
sure you read that
policies.
before you start.
Right. Here's all our policies, right? We have 2 policies. Policy number 1, act in the best interest of the company at all times. Policy number 2, adequate performers will be graciously asked to take their talents elsewhere. That's all you need, bro.
Say it again. Adequate performers will be graciously asked to take their talents elsewhere.
That's correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I made a post about this, somebody was like, or actually multiple people, I had like 6 or 7 people. Glenn, you meant inadequate performers will be graciously asked to take your talents elsewhere? I'm like, no, I didn't. Adequate. If you are average, I'll ask you to take your talents elsewhere.
Right.
I don't want average. I want top performers. I want dogs that are willing to get in there and get it done. I want the best of the best. Imagine if a sport. Well, you're hockey. Well, you're Canada, so maybe hockey. Imagine, what sport do you like now? Do you know any sports?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So let's just say your favorite sports team.
I'm not.
Whatever it was.
I don't know.
Say you had a favorite sports team.
Sure.
The Edmonton Moose Knuckles.
Yeah. So the coach of your favorite sports team comes out and he says, "You know what? We're looking for the most average players we can find. We really believe if we can just get our players to be average and to do the very minimum expectation, we're guaranteed to win the championship." You'd be like, "What?" No, they're like, "We're looking for the best of the best of the best
Right.
of the best."
Yeah.
And that's the expectation, is you are the best of the best of the best of the best.
Right.
So our two policies actually feed right one into another. They feed into one another hand in hand, right? Always act in the best interest of the company. Adequate performers will be graciously asked to take their talents elsewhere. Why do I need to have a schedule? If you are not acting in the best interest of the company, we're just going to graciously ask you to go somewhere else.
Sure.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
they feed into, like, if you're not performing at a super high level, I'm just going to graciously, like, no hard feelings, but you got to go, bro.
You got to go. Somebody else is chomping at the bit
Yeah.
to get in here and
Dude,
show us what they're made of.
Kobe Bryant, bro.
Uh-huh.
NBA superstar. We all know Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace. We all miss Kobe Bryant. He had, when he did this most of his career, but let's just say when he was in the NBA, he had a job. And as part of his job, they practiced from 10 to noon, I think it was. And then on 2-a-day weeks, they'd practice again from 4 to 6. You weren't required to be at practice, but they'd just fire you if you don't show up. Like
Sure.
they did
That was the bare minimum.
right?
Yeah.
But Kobe would show up
Tack
4
on.
to 6. He did 4 days, right? He did 4 days because he was, and nobody had to tell Kobe to go do 4 days.
Sure.
Nobody had to tell him to eat right. Nobody told him to lift those weights,
Yeah.
right? So I just believe that adults should be allowed to act as adults. And if you're acting in the best interest of the company and you're performing at a super high level, then I don't need to tell you when to show up for work or when to not show up for work. And as far as my customers, if our door says we're open from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or 9 to 7, whatever it says, acting in the best interest of the company would be making sure there's people here to take care of those customers between those hours of 9
Yeah.
and 7.
Yep.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
It's real simple.
And it goes,
I feel like we've complicated this whole work thing.
I think you're right. And it goes full circle right back to the very beginning, which is where I want to end in almost a chiastic way, poetic way.
I don't
which
know
is
what that word means.
A chiasm, you know, in like biblical times, the beginning of a chapter, well, we've turned them into chapters, but the beginning of a sentiment and the end of a sentiment would work backwards and towards each other to a common point in the middle.
And that's called the chiastic.
It's like chiasm, I think is the actual word. I
Thanks,
don't know.
man.
I don't know if
Appreciate the education.
chiastic is, but anyways. But we are ending where we began with opportunity. You brought up Kobe.
Yeah.
See, I've got to believe that Kobe knew full well that doing 4 a days was an opportunity available literally to everybody
everyone.
else in the league.
Correct.
But he was the only one who decided to take it.
Correct.
Acting in the best interest of the company, of the dealership, is available to everyone.
Yeah.
But there will be those who, based on their ambition, their desire, their goals, their drive, will see opportunities inside of that are available to everybody else. Mm-hmm. But the difference being that they're taking them. And I feel like in today's culture, in today's society, people are too focused on, well, why does Glenn get that? Why does Michael get to do that?
Right.
Not realizing that you and I and so many people that have mentored us, that we mentor, that we get to rub shoulders with, we all start the same.
No doubt.
Born buck naked with air in our lungs and every opportunity available to us.
Yeah.
And it's what we do with it that's the difference.
That's it, man. That's it. And unfortunately, for many, including me, in a past life. Unfortunately for many, we have built this system. We've become...
We build walls around ourselves.
Yeah, we've become the inmates of a prison that we can't see, and we're also the guards of this prison that we can't see. And we've also somehow attached pride.
And we also have the keys to the
prison.
handcuffs.
And we have the keys, but we don't realize, we don't even know that we've built it. And I see a lot of people that are going through their entire lives, never really chasing their dreams.
Yeah.
And believing that there's something external that is keeping them from unlocking their full potential, when the reality is it's an internal thing. And so we're trying to create an environment here where it is our responsibility to unlock the potential in people. And you do not unlock the potential in people by shackling them to a time clock, or shackling them, or I'm sorry, allowing them to be average. That's not how you unlock people's full potential. So I guarantee you, bro, we're going to have some people that work here, and they're going to be devastated when we let them go.
Sure.
Because they have so much freedom, so much flexibility, and they're going to have opportunities out the wazoo. There are people that are going to come through these walls, and it's not going to work. There are some people that are so ingrained in...
Still in prison.
This prison that, okay, I need someone to tell me when to be at work, and I need someone to tell me when to go home, and I need someone to tell me, you know, like, those people are going to want to work here. There's some people that are going to say no schedule, and they're closed 7 weeks a year. We didn't even get into that. No schedule, and they're closed. I don't want to work there. They're going to be like lazy people. And they're not going to get through our screening system, because we're going to have a very incredible. But I know this won't work for everyone. But for those that can come into this environment, take advantage of the opportunity, do the 4 days like Kobe and so on and so forth, dude, this is going to completely transform their lives, their children's lives, their children's children's lives, the community all around them. The impact ripples will be far and wide.
Whew.
Guaranteed, homie.
You're also, tell me if I'm wrong here, but you're also like welcoming of other dealers coming in and checking out what we're doing here.
Bro, please, and sign up.
Like, no closed doors. Like, you don't even have to come in and mystery shop and be all shady. You can just come in and be like, we're from this dealership.
Dude, we're live streaming half the stuff. We're showing, we're doing a YouTube docuseries on how we're building it. We have a training and consulting company that literally works with dealers. We work with F&I, we work with sales, we work with all of it. Like,
come on in.
Please.
Prove us.
Please. And here's why. There's a bigger mission. And Heather Parody, again, I'll mention her name because she's a muse in my life. But she has helped me realize, like, it bothers me that, and I refer to pro sports all the time. It's a big part of my life. It bothers me that there are millions of kids out there who have dreams and aspirations of being a professional athlete, who will work their tails off from age 7 to age 22 to try to get into the league, when it's a lottery's chance of them actually making it. Meanwhile, the auto industry is the second largest industry on the planet. It's created more billionaires than any other industry on planet Earth. The richest man on earth is a car guy. And we don't have a single kid saying, when I grow up, I want to be in the car business. There's opportunities. Anybody can walk into this place and become a freaking multimillionaire, a billionaire, create success, make an impact. Only 1 in a million is going to make it into professional athletes. But they've done such a good job of telling their story.
That's the dream. That's the
dream.
Yeah.
So the reason we let all other dealers in and so on and so forth is, like, the more dealerships that can start thinking a little bit differently, and the more dealerships that can really make an impact in people's lives, maybe one day, maybe it's I have a dream. Maybe I'll see it happen, or maybe I won't. But maybe, just maybe, one day, there'll be tens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or possibly even millions of young people growing up saying,
car business.
One day, I'm going to be in that right there. I want to be that.
That is our version of the major leagues.
That's it.
Wow. Hey, we are.
Some people
here.
think I'm crazy, bro. You
Wow.
think I'm crazy, bro?
You're a car guy.
Yeah.
Like Elon Musk.
am
People
that.
think Elon's crazy. He's a car guy.
Elon is crazy. And I love him for it.
Oh, man. Well, hey, listen, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dealer Playbook podcast with Glenn Lundy. Glenn, how can those listening and watching connect with you?
Oh, just search. Easiest thing, do GlennLundy.com, or you just search my name, Glenn Lundy. For some reason, I'm like the only Glenn Lundy in America that cares about social media or any of that. So feel free, Glenn Lundy, 1 N, 2 N's, I don't care. You'll find me. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty confident, and if somebody else can tell me different, please do. I am pretty confident that I have more video content on Google than like anyone, any single individual on planet Earth. And I mean that. Click my name, put Glenn Lundy, and then click videos. It's like 87 pages before you'll find anything besides me.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
And you're the Google SEO guy. How many dealerships would love to be 87 pages
Oh,
deep?
yeah. Yeah. All
This
of them.
one now is, bro.
Oh, man. Thanks so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, bro. Let's go.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Dealer Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please subscribe, share, and hit that like button. You can also join us and the DPB community on social media. Check back next week for a new Dealer Playbook episode. Thanks so much for joining.